will just introduce you our new presenter today, and Dr. Hanai Torola Scali. She's joining us from Spain, and the title of the presentation is Ideology and Discourse, discourse analysis about the migration topic on Spanish newspaper. And I'm passing the microphone to Dr. Scali. Good luck.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. I hope everyone is hearing me, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, great. So as as the colleague said, and as we can see on the title, the presentation we want to reflect about how the migrations issue is shared by the Spanish newspaper. Based on this objective, this goal, we use the discipline of discourse analysis to analyze the publications, the discourse of the publications on the Spanish newspaper. So we have organized the research into 4 different blocks to show as clear as possible each one of the points that allow us to achieve the analysis of the journalistic discourse about migration. The first one we have to start saying that, as we know, migration has a lot of types and a lot of circumstances. It happened on a lot of circumstances, and so we wanted to limit the research to let's say the border areas, the limit border areas of Spain. That's why we put our focus on the publications about the jump of the fence on the little city is called Ceuta. I don't know if you know about it, but Ceuta is like has a fence, has a border, has a fence, and in one side of the border is Spain and the other side is Morocco. So the migrant that comes from Morocco just has to jump the fence and to be in Spain. They like in Spain. Great. So in 2008, the biggest 2 jumps have happened in Ceuta, and they caused some big issues on the border. So we wanted to focus on that, how the migration, this type of migration, the jump of the border, the jump of the fence on Ceuta is shared by the media, by the Spanish media. We got the first jump was by 602 people on July 26, and the second one was by 116 people on August 2022. So the reality, the truth is that a large number of articles have been published because of the sharps material used and the toxic substances. So the migrants have caused a lot of some injuries, not just between the security, let's say the security members, but between migrants as well during the jump. So what is the object of studying this empirical research? We wanted to create a corpus made up of articles and news and publications about the 2 mass jumps to the fence produced on July 26th and August 22nd, published in the local digital newspaper called Ceuta Actualidad. So the period of the publications selected will be from 22 to 30 August and from 26 to 26 July to 3 August of the same year, of course. So, and the final goal is to analyze the discursive, the aggressiveness and the violence that have been shared about this kind of let's say migration, of course, irregular migration, of course, into the articles published on Ceuta Actualidad. Saying that, we have to start from, of course, 2 thoughts or 2 hypotheses as any other empirical research. The first one is that the press of Ceuta involved on spreading the news, sharing the news related to the migration events. Because of that, the objective is to analyze the quantity of the articles about this kind of migration, the jump of the board, the jump of the fence, published in Pseudo-Actualidad. And the second thought, or second hypothesis that we started from was that the means of communication put special, let's say, emphasis or make really important the migratory policy. That's why they related every single publication is related to the migratory policy. And in this sense, the general objective is to analyze the presence of how many references to the policy are in the selected articles. So going to the methodological aspect, we can say that the methodology will be composed of numerous and varied research methods of information processing, of course. Corpus linguistics and scrapping techniques are two of the most important. But then we have compositional analysis to treat the discourse, of course, and the semantic and pragmatic analysis. Okay, but the most important one is what I call the basis of our empirical research. It's called Topología del Discurso. If we translate it to English, it's topology of the discourse. It is a methodology developed and created by the professor Antonio de las Heras, and he is a teacher, university and academic university teacher here in Spain, Madrid actually. And to explain the reason why we opted for this particular method, we must start from the fact that we understand the notion of ideology as a conceptual organization of ideas. In this case, we will focus on the discursive dimension of the ideology, of course, because we're talking about journalistic discourse. So the speech and discourse, or the discourse, is understood as a manifestation transmitted by our natural language. So following this idea, following the lines of this professor, we can transform the discursive part of any ideology into a set of concepts. And that make us or give us the opportunity to let's say transcribe any discourse, any type of discourse forming a structure. How do you construct these structures? So we have to base our ideas on what we're gonna talk about. First of all, the structures are made up by concepts, independent concepts, arrows and double bars. The arrow between two concepts, two independent concepts, means opposition. Two bars means support or complementary. What I want to say with that any concept, the first concept will complement the second one, or is in the same line of the second one. We see that more easily when we see the structures. And the last thing that I want to say about it is that each structure, of course, is divided into positive and negative values. When we say positive and negative values, I mean positive is like there's nothing bad about it. There's nothing. It's a normal concept. It's a normal independent term. But when we say negative, we're talking about problematic, critics, or even violence or aggressiveness. We have to remember that here we are analyzing the aggressiveness into discourse, how many terms or concepts any articles shared about immigration use concepts about or notions about violence and aggressiveness. So with that being said, we have a law of composition when we got two independent terms like related with two arrows. The third one will be also with these two double bars. Excuse me. The third one will be also with two double bars. When it's like a double bar and an arrow, the third one with an arrow will be an arrow. We can see that we're gonna see down the structures more easily. So talking that being said, we have to jump to the theoretical foundation. We have to jump to the framework, as a theory, I can say that the most important theory foundation here is the critical analysis of the discourse. Of course, we have to remember that we're talking about the discourse analysis, the journalistic discourse analysis. So here, the critical analysis of the discourse is looked like an approach where language is seen as a form of social practice. This is the most important. This is the most important thing of this discipline. If we want to give a definition according to the idea to our principal author, here is Van Dijk. I'm sure many of you have heard about him. We can say that this critical analysis of the discourse permits us an analytical research of the mode that the abuse of power, practices like abuse of power or racism are reproduced in the discourse. So that gives us the opportunity, using this framework, using this theory, with the topology of discourse, with the topología del discurso, the combination between both of them can give us the opportunity to evidence discursive manifestation of like the violence or the aggressiveness shaded about the jump of the fence on the journalistic articles that we're going to see. So here, jumping to the practical side, the practical part of the research, of the empirical research, we can see how we can form the structure. As you can see here, the two bars between two independent concepts means that they are on the same line, means they are neutral. There's nothing bad about migration. There's nothing to relate about migrants and violence. But when we see the arrow, the red meaning, there's red notions, we can see that, of course, there's an opposition between the words, between the meaning, between the concepts. So we also want to say that of course, we have organized the structure based on the frequency of repetition. Which means that President of Ceuta is the concept most repeated on the article, on this article, the dates 27 July. And these ones, like unsafety, is the less repeated. So what I want to say is that, of course, these ones have been constructed on Spanish because the article was like published in Spanish. So after being constructed in Spanish, we have translated. I have translated each independent concept. I didn't translate the whole articles because it would be nonsense. But yes, I translated each independent concept. So this is how we form. This is how we create a structure. And that gives us the idea, that gives us how many independent talks bad. I don't want to say bad, but talks in some way, about migration or relate the migration to the violence and aggressiveness. As you can see here, violent acts, explosions, critics, and of course, here we see like the difference. Critics is the most repeated one, and here irregular access is the less repeated one. So we have made structures of these terms, of these articles, based on the first jump and the second jump independently. We didn't want, this is the second jump. We didn't want to share, like, to mix between them. And actually, the most important thing with all that being like formed and created, the most important thing is the graphic representation. So the results that we have seen with the structures, we can share them in this graphic representation. So the points that we will analyze here are first, the number of articles published daily. Of course, we have already said that the percentage of negative notions reflected in each article and the percentage of notions that introduce a relationship or vinculate violence with migrants. So the first one we're gonna talk about the two jump independently. Okay, now we're talking about the first jump. First jump, we can see that the highest point of the articles, let's say the day where more articles have been published about the jump, about the first jump is the 27 July 27, and that's of course a normal thing because it's like the day after the jump. So we consider it normal because it is period within the period of the first 48 hours after the event. So it's normal. It's not something abnormal or unusual. The negative notions transmitted. Here we have to say that the day we have said that it is important to see how many the percentage of notions related to violence or that have been published. But I wanted to say also, I wanted to analyze also how many negative notions have been transmitted on this context, because we're talking about migratory phenomenon context. So we want, even if it's not vinculated to violence, when we see critics, when we see problematic, like a migratory phenomenon, treated as a problem and as a phenomenon, we can change the opinion of people about the migrants. And of course, in Ceuta is a little city, is the population, the people there are a little bit tired of many migrants because they have the jump and they are I can see I've lived there for 2 or 3 years, 3 years actually, and they were a little bit tired about this news. They wanted something new all the time. So I suppose that it was important to know how many negative terms have been published about the migratory phenomenon. So we can say that, yes, the day when more articles have been published coincides with the day with the highest number of negative notions and the day with the highest number of notions about violence. We have to say here that even if the negative notions like are more than 16%, the violence notions don't reach the 30%. So what is important is that this number, we have to say, because we have made analyze the pragmatic and semantic analysis of these articles. They don't talk about the migration as a problem. They don't talk about migration as a problematic of the population of the city. They just come from the institution, political and civil, talking about the immediate returns, the expulsions. We have to say that, have to explain that immediate returns are like devoluciones en caliente, we say in Spanish. Why? Because when the people jump the fence, they have to be, the migrant jump the fence, they have to be registered, there's a process, there's a legal process that they have to go through to can go back to their countries, or just get the ID, get the residency. But with these two jumps, we have seen many times, many cases of people of the security, we say security people of the fence of the border, just pushing away the migrants, opening the door, pushing away the migrants, and make him return to the Moroccan side of the border without any registration, without any, let's say, without any legal process. So this is what they talking about here in the articles the most. They're talking about how come these police or these guards, these country guards can do something like this. So going to the second jump, we have that even if the two highest points are in the 28 and 29, we have to say that these days on these days 10 of the leaders of the violence of the 20 jump, let's say G jump, have been arrested. So the most important here, so they don't talk about the jump, the second jump, they talk about the arrest. So here the day where the most let's say the highest number of articles have been published is the day of the jump. We consider it, of course, reasonable. We consider it normal because, of course, it is the day of the jump and it is within the 48 period. Okay, so the second thing is the negative notions and the violence notions transmitted. As we said, 27, 28, 20, 28, sorry, and 29, we can consider them because they are talking about the arrest. So we consider just the day of the jump, the day after the jump. As we can see, yes, they have been, there is some of the notions about violence, notions term that vinculates the migrants with the violence or with violent attitudes. And yeah, it is true. They cause some injuries. We can't lie about it. They cause some injuries, not just between the security corps, between the security members, but between the migrants as well. Because say 600 people jumping at the same time on the fence, it's impossible to not be to not have like to not be injured some way. So we've seen that the motions that interest us in this case, the highest points, the highest days are the 22, the 23, and of course, uh, again, is in the both of them are on the 48 period, hours period, so we consider it normal. Even though, as I say here, the concepts concerning violence don't reach the 30%. The same situation with the first jump, and the other terms have been directed to the political formation and the city entities, and of course the political migratory of the government. So, talking about the conclusions, talking about how the results of this comparison of this, let's say, these two jumps, empirical research, it, like it's have been presented like a normal or a easy work, but it was actually a lot of work, extensive work, because it was empirical. First, we had to extract with describing techniques all the articles, select the jump, select the jumps, extract the articles, and then make the structures, and finally get to the graphic representation. So the conclusions here, we have to go back to the first idea, to the first hypothesis that we had about this empirical research, about this, let's say, topic, about this investigation. The first one was that Fake Actualidad is involved in spreading or in sharing the events related to the jump of the fence. We have said that the Spanish media is involved on sharing the migration events, and that's true. We can confirm that. And the reasons, talking about Ceuta, as we have completed the subject, our subject, the reasons are like those. First of all, Feti is located in the city. Feti is located in the city. What is Feti? Feti is it's not permanent, but it's a temporary residency for all the migrants that jump the fence, or all the migrants, all the people that ask for asylum or ask for any help from the government, from the Spanish government. So they have there a big residence, temporary residence for all these people in Ceuta, to give them the opportunity to start a new life, to give them the papers, to give they pass there like they can pass there, they can live there for 3, 4, 5, even 1 year, and then they get the papers and they go to the peninsula, we say that, to another region in Spain. We have to remember that Ceuta is located in Africa. So the migrants that go to Ceuta, they don't go to Ceuta, they don't drive the border, the fence just to stay in Ceuta. They want to go to Spain, to Europe, let's say to Europe. Even if Ceuta is Spain, Ceuta is located in Africa, and there's no a lot of opportunity there. So the first reason that Ceuta Actualidad is involved with this topic, this migration topic, is because of the residency, temporary residency of the migrants in the city. The second one is because the fact of using these irregular entries as a political instrument. Of course, the reaction of the Ceuta's administration or political increase the number of publications of the papers, of the newspapers, of the digital journals. And the most important one in these two cases, in these two gems, is that using some sharp materials and some toxic substances have increased as we never have seen before. The number of articles and publications where they vinculate migration with violence, because as I said, sadly, they have
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for interrupting. And
Yeah.
you have only 1 minute to wrap it up, please. Okay?
Great.
Sorry for interrupting. I'm sorry
No,
about that.
great. So they have vinculated migration with violence. Going to the second idea, we have the Spanish media puts a special emphasis on the migratory policy. Yes, of course, they use the political formation, use these events to share their opinion about migration, and of course, which is important, they use these events to go and to share their opinions against the migratory policy of the government. And I think with that, I'm done. I just want to thank all of you. Thanks for attention. Thanks for the opportunity. Of course, thanks for the great organization that you guys had of the event.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Dr. Hene. That was absolutely fascinating. We do have two questions for you today. One question from Rani Al-Mufarrah, who would like to know if you searched for the most frequent words in the article to come up with the data, or was it done in a different manner?
Yeah, it was for the most, of course, with AntConc. I've done that with AntConc and Sketch Engine, like two, as we all know, as two computational programs. And they just processing the scores, the articles computationally, like virtually. I have had the most repeated independent attempts. Yeah.
We do have another question for you from an anonymous attendee today, asking if there is a reference that could explain clearly Dr. Antonio Harris's tool of analysis. Is there anything that you would recommend?
Yes, just the name of the we can hear here the name of the method, topología del discurso, because if you look for it in English, you're not gonna find it. But there's a lot of references in Spanish. And of course, the name of the professor, he's a big professor here, really recognized. And yeah, there's a lot of here. Topología del discurso. Here we can have it, we can see it. Just looking for that, we can look for a lot of, and also I can say ideología y discurso. If you want, I can put you on the chat the name of the book that I think it can be really good for anyone that wants to go with this and work with this method.
All right, thank you very much for your time today, Doctor. We do have one last question for you from Zuhra Ghani this afternoon, asking, what extent can migration be manipulated as a political agenda?
Yes, this is a great question. Let's say the migration can be manipulated in many senses. We can now in Spain we have the far right, the Vox. I don't know if you have heard about it, but Vox is using the migration, these events to, and sadly these the injuries that come with these kind of events to just share a bad or a negative image of this of the topic of the migration. And even there are a lot of, it's not this case, Ceuta Actualidad didn't do that, but a lot of press like El Mundo, like El País, like the most important newspaper on the whole country, that use migration as after problematic. So this is like, okay, the problematic of migration, this is like, this can be used, this can be seen as a normal sentence. It's not a normal sentence, not the same thing we say, saying phenomenon, migratory phenomenon as problematic of the migration. So yeah, it is used by a lot of political formation. It is used by, it's never used to sadly to give a positive image of the migration by the politician here, because they have more important things to do apparently with their times. But yeah, it is used in many senses, and it's sad because the discourse is powerful. Discourse is it can manipulate a lot of people, and many people, of course. It's happened with it doesn't happen with the youth. Now I can see that youth people here are really, let's say, convicted. They are really, let's say, they want to have migrants here. They want to create Spain with a migrant work, because Spain is a migrant. It have been created, have been like worked by migrants the whole from the whole history. I don't think if I don't know if I answered your question, but I think I did my best.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much. Really very appreciated. And thanks so much for your informative presentations. We are really very appreciated. And right now we will go to the next presenters. Our next presenters are Wassam Mohammed Abdel, Khalid Ibrahim, Hassah Abalabla, and Andrew Hardy. And they are joining us from Princess Noor bint Abdulaziz University from Saudi Arabia and Lancaster University from the United Kingdom. And the title of the presentation is the discursive construction of the Ethiopian Renaissance Dam in Egyptian newspaper at a corpus assisted discourse analysis. And right now I'm passing the microphone to you guys. Good luck.
Hello everybody.
Hello, we all can hear you, but everybody is muted.
Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can. Can you just yes, click that one?
Okay. This is Wassam Ibrahim, and I'm presenting instead of my friends and colleagues, Dr. Hassah Abalila from Princess Noor University and Dr. Andrew Hardy from Lancaster University. And actually, I don't only belong to Princess Noor University here in Saudi Arabia, I also belong to Tanta University in Egypt, although this is not written in the abstract book or even the program, but it's okay. Our presentation today will be tackling a very pressing issue for Egypt right now, which is the construction of the Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. And our project is titled The Discursive Construction of the Ethiopian Renaissance Dam in Egyptian Newspapers, a corpus-assisted critical discourse analysis. I begin the talk by providing some brief contextual information about the Ethiopian Dam and its impact. Then I present the research methodology and theoretical frameworks employed in the study. The analysis of the research data is conducted first by computing the collocates of the node word sadd or dam in the corpus, and then by examining and analyzing the concordances of selected collocates within the framework of critical discourse analysis, CDA, and also framing. The research questions would be like that. This is what we want to answer through conducting this research. In what ways is the Renaissance Dam discursively constructed by the Egyptian press? What topics, other than the dam itself, emerge as prominent within the corpus of articles that refer to the dam or the Renaissance Dam? Of course, the data is in Arabic. That's why I'm writing here the node word is Sadd al-Nahda or Renaissance Dam. And how are they framed ideologically? To what extent is the general negative evaluation of Sadd al-Nahda in Egyptian public discourse present and consistent across the different newspapers? The media play an important role in constructing people's knowledge, attitudes, beliefs, values about everything in the world. Of course, one form of media, print or digital, would be newspapers. Even in the age of broadcast and digital media, newspapers still exert a powerful influence on a wide range of audience and thus form public opinion as well as government opinion and policy. Newspapers have the role of constructing ideologically motivated versions of reality, which are aimed at persuading people that certain phenomena are good or bad. So if you think about it like that, the newspaper would present a certain topic in a certain way, and it is more likely that readers would adopt the same ideas, the same ideology presented in the newspaper. This is how the newspaper construct reality and gain the public opinion in this way achieving their agendas. The River Nile is the longest river in the world, stretching over 6,000 kilometers across various climates, landscapes, cultures, and countries. It has been the setting for recent tensions and conflict over control of water rights between upstream Ethiopia's construction of the dam and downstream Egypt and Sudan's almost total dependence on the River Nile water resources. The existing Nile Treaty guarantees water rights to Egypt and Sudan. Ethiopia, one of the 8 upriver states and the source of most of the Nile waters, is building the largest dam in Africa. Located on the Blue Nile, 25 miles from the Ethiopian border with Sudan, the Grand Renaissance Dam begins a new chapter in the long history of debate on the ownership of the Nile waters, and its effects for the entire region could be really profound. News media released articles covering the controversy and highlighted conflict and potential for water wars. Here we have an example from the BBC. The BBC wrote, "The water war brewing over the new River Nile Dam." And also, "A new dam on the Nile could trigger a war over water unless Ethiopia can agree a deal with Egypt and Sudan." And finally, "It is often said the world's next world war will be fought over water, and there are few places as tense as the River Nile." However, this project is particularly interested in the Egyptian newspapers' coverage of that conflict. And of course, this coverage would be in Arabic language. The theoretical frameworks we're using and also the methodology, it will be a synergy between corpus linguistics, critical discourse analysis, and framing. So here, let's start with giving an idea about corpus linguistics. A corpus can be defined as a large collection of machine-readable, authentic written and or spoken texts, written or spoken texts that acts as a representative sample of a particular language or variety of language. Here, it provides a perspective on natural occurring language and sets it apart from intuition-based approaches which rely on the overt judgment of an individual about the language. Corpus analysis software and electronically readable corpora enable researchers to investigate a wider scope of linguistic patterns at a significantly lesser time with the highest degree of accuracy. Recent work in corpus linguistics would use certain procedures, including collocation, keywords, part of speech tagging, semantic domains, and of course, concordances. Collocation, this is what we're using in our study. We use collocation. So we search for the collocates of the word, the node word said, and then we start working on the collocates we have. The definition of collocation is the above chance frequent co-occurrence of two words within a predetermined span, usually 5 words on either side of the word under investigation. The collocates of a node contribute to its meaning. They can provide a semantic analysis of a word, but can also convey messages implicitly. The meaning attributes of a node's collocates can provide a helpful sketch of the meaning function of the node within a particular discourse. This reminds me of Baker et al.'s 2008 study about the representation of immigrants, asylum seekers, and refugees in the British newspapers for, I think, for 10 years or something. The analysts or the authors of that study found that the newspaper represented the asylum seekers, the refugees, and immigrants in a certain way, and the collocates always appearing with these node words are always negative, which means they wanted to inculcate a certain idea in the minds of the readers that the presence of the immigrants, asylum seekers, or refugees are not a good thing. It is something negative. So this is what we want to know about Sadd al-Nahda, how the Renaissance Sudan topic is represented in the Egyptian newspaper through studying its collocates, whether it is represented as something good, something negative, or of course it would be something that is of pressing importance to all the Egyptian people. And this is what we want to know, how the newspapers handled this. Talking about collocation would take us to talk about semantic preference and discourse prosody or semantic prosody. Semantic preference deals with semantic aspects. So, for example, if we take the cluster glass of, we will have a semantic preference for words like cold drinks, water, milk, lemonade, etc. But semantic prosody is evaluative, and this is what we are interested in. So if you look, for example, at the study of the Stubbs 2001, he provides an example of the lemma cause, and he finds out that it occurs overwhelmingly often with words for unpleasant events. So we have a hypothesis even before going into the data itself or examining the concordances that the aura around Sadd al-Nahda would be negative. So in order to examine the results of the corpus, the collocation, the corpus, and the corpus results more qualitatively, we are going to examine the concordances. A concordance presents the analyst with instances of a word or cluster in its immediate context. So concordance lines also, you have to take this in consideration, because if you read a concordance line and you want to know more, it can give you access to the whole text. This concordances is corpus linguistic tool that indicates that corpus linguistic is no stranger to qualitative analysis. CDA, according to Van Dyke, the core of CDA remains a systematic and explicit analysis of the various structures and strategies of different levels of text and tone. CDA emphasizes the need for interdisciplinary work. CDA researchers are fundamentally interested in analyzing opaque as well as transparent structural relationships of dominance, discrimination, power, and control as they are manifested in language. The groups who are in control of most influential public discourses, that is symbolic elites, such as politicians, journalists, scholars, teachers, and writers, play a special role in the reproduction of dominant knowledge and ideologies in society. This is really important because journalists would give people ideas how to think about the problem we're having. So here, the journalists are part of the symbolic elite who would influence the public opinion. Critical discourse analysts take the perspective of those who suffer most. Their problems are serious problems that affect the well-being and the lives of many. Here, critical discourse analysis tools would help us see how the topic we are dealing with is structured or represented in the articles in our data. Our analysis focuses on the statistically significant collocates of the node word said and other framing devices, including metaphors that cluster around such collocates, which are either used to persuade Egyptians of the gravity of the situation or to report the details of the related events. We also use framing, and according to Entman, to frame is to select some aspects of a perceived reality and make them more salient in a communicating text in such a way as to promote a particular problem definition, causal interpretation, moral evaluation, and or treatment recommendation for the item prescribed. Frames can include words, metaphors, storylines, images, etc. Frames allow citizens to rapidly identify why an issue matters, who might be responsible, and what should be done. So using certain frames would make all people, is supposed to make all people have the same line of thought and really feel the gravity of the situation. This is what we call collective action frames. Collective action frames are used for mobilizing citizens, according to Color 2004. These frames help construct a sense of community, identification, allegiance, and shared history. They influence the perceptions, beliefs, and actions of various target groups, such as media personnel, potential allies, constituents, and in our case, the general public. We therefore adopt a text-dependent micro-discourse approach, emphasizing analysis of words and phrases which mark frames, of course, existing within concordances of the collocates we extracted for the word said. Frames can be indexed by metaphors, numbers, or dates, stock literary characters or titles, and the collocates. Metaphor, of course, is a major framing device. Numbers or dates are also important. In the context of reporting on avian influenza, the date 1918, for example, opens up the frame of the Spanish flu pandemic, which itself can trigger fear or alarm. And this happened in the beginning of coronavirus, if you were following the coverage, the media coverage of the coronavirus in the very beginning. And stock literary characters or titles. In the context of reporting on genetic modification, for example, there are references to Frankenstein in index. These references to Frankenstein index the monstrosity frame. And also there are references to Brave New World, which index the state regulation of human reproduction. So here, these things frame the concept covered or constructed in the newspapers in a certain way. Frames can also be indexed by statistically significant collocates, which is very important for the purposes of our study. The methodology. We have a combination of methodologies traditionally associated with CDA and CL in research projects seem to benefit both from the fields of critical discourse analysis and corpus linguistics. Actually, the first study that made this synergy was Baker et al. 2008. Corpus approaches can enhance critical discourse analysis by allowing the analysis to consider a much larger amount of data. And this helps the analysts to defend themselves against the crime of cherry picking if they are using only CDA without corpus tools. So here in this paper, there is a combination of methodologies traditionally associated with CL and the CDA, particularly framing. We have two collections of articles. The first collection starts from 2011 and until 2008, because the dam was started actually after the Egyptian Revolution, January Revolution in 2011. And we have collected all the articles dealing with Sadd al-Nahda, dealing with the Renaissance Dam in these years from 2011 to 2018. And we have about 4,282 newspaper articles, about 2 million words, published in 8 Egyptian newspapers. But recently, although we started working on this first corpus, recently we saw that the situation have become even more pressing, and there are a lot of developments that we have to cover. That's why we now currently we are compiling another corpus, and actually until now we haven't finished because it is like millions and millions of words, and we still have because Andrew Hardy has come up with a computer program that would crawl the internet and get all the Egyptian newspapers from the internet. In the beginning, in the first corpus, we used the Lexis UK. It is the database available in Lancaster University. It was really easy to compile the first corpus. It took time, but it was easy. For the second corpus, we couldn't compile the corpus using LexisNexis because some Egyptian newspapers are not available there anymore. So we had to come up with this software. Thanks to Andrew, of course, for inventing that software. We had to come with this software to crawl the internet for the online versions of the Egyptian newspapers in order to get our second corpus from 2018, the second half of 2018 till now. The methodology is twofold. The first is quantitative. We will deal with the corpus results, of course, focusing on collocation of the node word Sadd al-Nahda. And the second one would be qualitative. We would examine the concordances in the light of CDA and framing. Our project is still a work in progress, and as I told you, we're still downloading the second corpus, unfortunately. So today, I will deal only with the quantitative analysis. In order to examine representations of Sadd al-Nahda Renaissance Dam, collocations of the main term Sadd were extracted from the corpus using the statistical ratio MI3 equal or more than 5. What does it mean? MI3 equal or more than 5 means that the observed association between the node and each of its collocates is 2 to the power of 5 times greater than expected, that would normally come by chance. That is, the collocate is 32 times more frequent in the vicinity of the node than would occur by chance alone. The word Sadd occurs in the first corpus 7,371 times in 3,934 newspaper articles. Actually, some other articles are not calculated here because we have more than 4,000, because we didn't search for the word al-sad, we only searched for sad. That's why we have only 3,934 articles. The collocates we had were 10,325 collocates. But of course, we wouldn't go through all these collocates. We would focus and examine only the top statistically significant 200 collocates for each node word, because we plan to look also for Egypt as a node word and for Ethiopia as a node word. Function was, if we talk about...
Sorry for interrupting, Dr. Wasim, and you have very few minutes left for the question and answer. Please wrap it up.
Okay. So here, function words are omitted. We have only 149 collocates. Collocates are divided into groups depending on their semantic field. So we have groups like crisis, problem, construction or project, topic or studies, negotiations, consequences, countries, nationalities, the Nile, and other. And here are the groups. If you look, for example, at the first group, crisis or problem, we have the word crisis, azma, in 5 variations of Arabic. And we have the word qadiyya or case 3 times, mushkila or problem, also 3 variations of the word, with very high statistical significance. As you see, these are the groups of the collocates divided according to semantic domain. There is a statistical evidence for the presence of a negative semantic prosody of Sadd al-Nahda, even without looking at the concordances. Looking only at the collocates themselves, we find that there is a negative context in Egyptian newspapers. And of course, this is logical, as Egypt sees a matter as a life and death. The negative connotations emanate from the occurrence of collocates such as ومشكلة, لمشكلة, بأزمة, problem, crisis, many variations of crisis, also تداعيات, consequences, which have negative connotations in Arabic, and al-khilafat, disagreements, which also have negative connotations. And now I have to wrap it up. Thank you so much. We hope we finish the project very soon. We're working now on the qualitative analysis of the first corpus, and we're waiting for the download, to finish the download of the second corpus to continue the project. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being with you today.
How did you manage all of that data? MashaAllah. It's a lot of data to be collecting. So how is the management of the data working so that you can come up with the corpus?
The first corpus, I compiled it in 2018 while I was in a mission in the UK studying, doing some research with Andrew Hardy. So I compiled the first corpus. It took me like 3 weeks to come with the corpus, because you collect only you collect only like 50 articles per time. So you download 50 articles, and these are like more than 4,000. So it took me a long time to do it, but I did it in my free time while doing other research with Andrew Hardy. But the second corpus, actually Andrew is doing it by himself because he came up with the software, and the software is doing its work on the background of his computer, because it is like working on its own. And we're waiting for the finish of the download.
Okay, thank you so much. If anyone has questions, please feel free to type them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Thank you. Okay, so once you have created the corpus, what will you do with the corpus? Will you share it with others, allow it to be used for different sets of research, possibly for...
The corpus now is uploaded on the CQP interface. The CQP interface is a corpus tool with a corpus interface owned by Lancaster University, and actually it is invented by Andrew Hardy, one of the co-authors of this paper. So the corpus now is already uploaded on the CQP, but it is not for public use of the other scholars until we finish our work on it, and at that time I think we're going to make it public, but not public on the internet, only public on the CQP, so people can do corpus work on it if they like.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wasim, for a very informative presentation, and we are really very appreciated. And right now, and we will go to our next presenter. I will introduce you very briefly, and her name is Aisha Al-Subhi, and she is joining us from Al-Qura University in Saudi Arabia. The title of the presentation is the use of interactional meta discourse in the academic advertisements of Arab universities. And thank you so much for joining us, Aisha, and I'm passing the microphone to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for this
Could you
brief
please share your
introduction.
screen?
Yes, I will in a second. Okay, just give me 1 second. Okay, is it clear now?
Yes, it's very clear.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I'm really honored to be part of this amazing conference. I would like to convey my heartfelt thanks and deep gratitude to Dr. Dina and Dr. Suhad for their great efforts and continuous support. The title of my paper is The Use of Interactional Meta Discourse in the Academic Advertisement of Arab University. So a lot of recent research has addressed how writers convey their stance and establish a connection with their readers in different types of discourse. This concept of writer-reader interaction has been explored under different terms such as evaluation, appraisal, stance, meta-discourse. All these are built on a Bakhtanian view of text as a dialogue with readers. Influenced by this idea of writer-reader interaction, Highland 2005b proposed the model of interactional meta-discourse that embraces two main categories, stance and engagement. So generally, interactional meta-discourse is an umbrella concept, covers a wide range of linguistic resources, such as self-mentions, hedges, reader pronouns, and so on, that are used to facilitate the interaction between the writer and the readers in the text. Highland sees stance and engagement as the two pillars of meta-discursive model and two sides of the same coin. So stance refer to the writer-oriented features of interaction and concern the ways writers comment on the accuracy of a claim, the extent they show their commitment to it, or the attitude they want to express to a proposition or to the reader. On the other hand, engagement refers to the reader-oriented features of interaction. It is an alignment dimension where writers acknowledge the presence of their readers, pulling them along with their argument, focusing their attention, acknowledging their uncertainties, and including them as discourse participant and guiding them to the correct interpretation. So using this framework, a lot of research has explored the use of stance and engagement features in different contexts, such as academic discourse, academic spoken discourse, economic text, job postings, media and advertising discourse. But up to my knowledge, little attention has been given to the investigation of interactional meta discourse in higher education advertisement. As you know, advertising is a unique form of cultural and social discourse that undoubtedly has the power of influencing audiences by using various creative and persuasive methods. Leach refers to advertising discourse as a form of loaded language which aims to change the will, the opinions, and the attitudes of its audience. Nowadays, and due to an increasing competition, higher educational institutions have come to realize the need to market themselves more aggressively to recruit and retain students. And one of the most successful channels of marketing is online marketing is social media advertising. So although university websites offer a basis for visitor and users, social media provides an ideal extension for relational marketing activities due to their collaborative and interactive nature and their massive popularity. In fact, social media is playing a crucial role as influencer, affecting future students in the choice of their study and the university. So through social media platforms, university can easily display information about programs, about academic degrees, admissions, alumni, careers, and any related topics of interest to a potential student. So the main concern of this study is to achieve a detailed description of the distributional patterns of stance and engagement feature. And the aims behind conducting this study are explore the use of interactional meta discourse in higher education advertisement through the examination of stance and engagement features, identify persuasive strategies used in these advertisement which entice prospective students and to attract their academic interests, and enrich on our understanding of this genre and shed some useful light on genre analysis. The corpus consists of 80 academic advertisements, totaling about 2,118 tokens. The ads were collected online from the official websites and the social networking sites of 38 universities and colleges in 10 Arab universities throughout the years 2019 and 2020. The majority of the ads were retrieved online from the official social media accounts of these universities. Three social media platforms were mainly used: Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Okay, so as we said, Highland views discourse as a form of interaction between writers and reader, which is accomplished through means of stance and engagement. He provides a comprehensive taxonomy of interactional meta-discourse, which consists of two key categories: stance and engagement. Stance resources concern writer-oriented features, and their prominent role is to convey the writer's attitudes and evaluation. Stance feature, as you can see, have four subcategories: hedges, boosters, attitude markers, and self-mentions. On the other hand, engagement resources deal with reader-oriented features, and their major function is to address the reader directly. Engagement features have five subcategories: reader pronouns, directives, knowledge, reference, asides, and questions. Okay, so as I said, this study is an quantitative investigation of the presence of interactional meta-discourse in higher education ads. The study revealed that there are plenty of interactional meta-discourse resources in the corpus. It has been found that there are 395 meta-discourse tokens, about 186 per 1,000 word in the corpus. Generally, data show that engagement markers were used more frequently than stance markers, and directives dominated the frequencies. So as you can see here in the table, these are the detailed frequencies of interactional meta discourse, and you can see the difference between stance and engagement. Okay, so the difference is displayed here more clearly. So directive, as I said, is the most frequently used subcategory of interactional meta-discourse. The difference between engagement and stance features has been found statistically significant after running a chi-square test. Okay, so I'll start speaking about the first main category of interactional meta-discourse and its subcategories, which is stance. So stance features mainly operate in the evaluative dimension of interactional meta-discourse resources and concern the ways the writer present themselves and convey their judgment and commitment toward the propositions in the text. The first feature of stance, hedges. Okay, so hedges are devices that indicates the writer's decision to withhold complete commitment to a proposition, allowing information to be presented as an opinion rather than accredited facts. Results revealed that the use of these downtoners is relatively few. This result is expected since the use of hedges can influence the persuasiveness of the advertisement. Though rare, hedges were used to soften the tone of the proposition and express a more rational meaning. Here I have an example from the corpus. So your future can start right here and now. So the model can here is used as a hedging device. On the contrary of hedging, we have boosting devices or boosters. Boosters indicate the writer's certainty toward the proposition in the text, and the writer explicitly makes his or her argument with a confident voice. They emphasize certainty and construct rapport by marking involvement with the topic and solidarity with an audience, taking a joint position against other voices. Similarly, boosters also were not commonly used in the corpus. There were only 27 tokens serving as boosting devices. So this is another example from the corpus. So AUD is definitely here is used as a boosting device. Okay, so as we said that hedges and boosters do not enjoy a high frequency of occurrence in the ads, they show a tendency the ads show a tendency to use fewer devices to strengthen or weaken the writer's claims. This is basically due to the high level of accuracy required of the information presented in the ads. So writers are requested to present correct and precise information about the universities and their programs, and accordingly, there is no need to use devices that upgrade or downgrade the truth value of the proposition. Now, the third feature of a stance is attitude markers. Attitudes allow writers to express their attitudes towards propositions. They denote the writer's attitude towards the desirability of an action or event, or to mark his or her attitude to social factors of obligation, responsibility, and permission. According to Highland 2005, attitude is expressed throughout a text by the use of subordination, comparatives, progressive particles, text location, and so on. But it is most explicitly signaled by attitude verbs, sentences, adverbs, and adjectives. Data showed that there are 43 attitude markers, and most of these markers are adjectives used in the comparative and the superlative form. These attitude markers or adjectives were used to emphasize the excellence, the originality, the uniqueness, and the type of education that these universities are offering through the use of stance features, especially attitude. Writers succeeded in highlighting the quality of university programs that promote and appeal to the emotion of prospective student. So emotional appeal is an important means of persuasion and an advertising goal. Among the used attitude markers are these. So we have best, big, new, unique, wide, extensive, highly qualified, productive, and brightest. Okay, now this is an example of attitude markers. So we have here the most employable, and this university is among the best universities, so the lexical best here. The final feature of a stance is self-mentions. Self-mentions are associated with the degree of explicit writer presence in the text, measured by the frequency of first-person pronouns and their corresponding cases, such as I, me, exclusive we, our, and ours. Data show that almost all self-mentions are realized by the use of first-person plural form we and its possessive cases our and ours, and especially the object form us, and it occurs 54 times in the data. It's worth mentioning that we is often or is frequently used by the writers as the representative of the university or the school, whereas our is used to refer to its academic programs. Okay, so this is another example. So we are the future, we are Khalifa University. Join us to take the next step in your career. Okay, so the second main category of interactional meta discourse is engagement markers. So engagement feature are a constellation of discourse strategies that writer adopt to recognize the presence of the reader and overtly bring the reader into the text. Engagement features, as we said in the beginning, represent the writer's effort to actively pull readers along with the argument, focusing their attention, anticipating their objections, recognizing their uncertainties, and including them as a discourse participant in the text. The first feature of engagement is reader pronouns. Reader pronouns are perhaps the most explicit way that readers are brought into a discourse, which are realized by the first person plural form, inclusive we, and the second person reader mention you. Actually, you and your are actually the clearest way a writer can acknowledge the reader presence. Data show that the reader pronoun you and its possessive cases occur 97 times. And it is notable that the possessive case your occurs 54 times, whereas the inclusive we demonstrate a rare occurrence. Okay, this is an example of reader pronouns. You mean the world to us. Tell your story and follow your passion. Phrases such as your future, your dreams, your success, your career, your dreams job, and your life where your is used as a keyword that explicitly acknowledges the student and involves them in the persuasion process, prove that these advertisements are deeply oriented to the reader's benefit in the first place. The second and the most frequently used category is directive. So directive are utterances that instruct reader to perform an action or to see things in a way determined by the writers. So they are used to stimulate the reader's participation in the text. And as a discourse strategy, the major function of the directive is to instruct the reader to do something in a way arranged by the writer. Directives are realized by so many ways: by the use of imperatives, by the use of necessity models such as have to, must, should, need to, and by the use of certain expressions and sentences such as it is important to do so, or it is crucial to do so, and so. Results reveal that there are 152 directives. Most of these were imperatives used within the cognitive categories. All call for immediate response from the student, inviting them to interact with the ad. These direct explicit instructions were employed to convince the reader into joining the university's academic programs. They are forceful and tempting, which coincide with the purpose and the persuasive nature of the advertising discourse. And this further proves the high interactionality of these texts, where they serve as real instruction oriented to prospective student. Among the most commonly used directives in the corpus are apply, register, visit, check, inquire, join, and contact. Okay, sorry. This is an example, so a physical one. So come explore our programs and tour the campus. Okay, here a lot of directives: learn, maximize, highlight, visit, and contact. The final feature of engagement is the use of questions. Questions are a key strategy of dialogic involvement, inviting engagement and bringing the interlocutor into an arena where they can be led to the writer's viewpoint. Results show that there are only 19 questions in the data functioning as engagement markers, and the majority of these questions were rhetorical ones. So despite the limited numbers of occurrence, questions in the advertisement arouse the student interest, establish a dialogue, and encourage them into thinking and considering the topic of the ad. They were used as a means of linguistic persuasion, which can create the impression of interpersonal communication. In addition, questions have a direct appeal in bringing the audience into this kind of dialogue with the writer, which other rhetorical devices do not have to the same extent. So I will show you some example. Here's an interesting example. So have you met Phil? Phil is an announcement about a social symposium in philanthropy. So this was the ad to announce about this social symposium. Why take a minor degree? Do you want to do a master or PhD in Germany? Okay, so we come to conclusion. The study reveals that there are plenty of interactional meta-discourse resources in the ads, and provides evidence that meta-discourse is a discourse universal. Result confirmed a significantly higher proportion of engagement features in the ad. The fact that there are more engagement features than stance feature in higher education academic discourse reveals the high consideration of reading reader in this genre. Higher education advertisements are excessively appellative, informative, persuasive by nature, and reader-oriented text. In higher education ads, many persuasive techniques have been employed, such as the use of engagement markers, repetition, emotional appeal, and rhetorical questions. Among the distinctive features of this advertising discourse is the ubiquitous use of reader pronouns you and your, self-mentions we and us, and the use of directives. Finally, higher education advertising discourse can be acknowledged as a socially mediated, persuasive, interactive discourse which achieves effective communication through the use of linguistic features that address the needs and the interests of a potential audience. This discourse is a promoting language in which writers employ recognized way to over academic interest and initiate social engagement, which prospective students find promising, appealing, and persuasive. These are the references. And thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for your attention, and I hope you find my study interesting. Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aisha. That was very interesting to listen to. As a reminder to our attendees, if you do have any questions at this time, please submit them through the Q&A feature. Dr. Ali, Aisha, we do have a question for you already.
Yes.
Have you reviewed the difference between Arabic and English in reference to these advertisements?
No,
Or was your
no.
study?
No, all the corpus was in English, or English only. I didn't review any Arabic advertisement. You know, because of a lot of university have international students, so they are advertising in using English language. So I didn't find any difficulty in finding the corpus. Okay. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you very
Okay.
much. We are just awaiting to see if we can get another question for you. Okay, so we do have another question for you,
Yes.
asking how can we use this data to teach language?
We use to teach language. I think the data will be useful to teach, not the data, to teach the resources, the meta discourses, the meta discoursal devices to students, especially in media, where the student are required to write or to create some ad. So they need to know and they need to learn about these linguistic devices, how to employ them correctly and accurately in order to achieve the purpose of the advertisement. I think it will be very beneficial to the student in media department to know about these linguistic devices.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today, Dr. Aisha. I think that is it for our questions tonight, this afternoon. So I'd like to put the mic back to Dr. Alia.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending the second round of concurrent sessions. We have a plenary session which will start in room, which will start at 5:15 in room 6. So I will close this room, and then if you are scheduled or if you're interested in attending the workshop, then you can come back to this room towards the end of the the third and final plenary session of today's symposium. And thank you to all of the speakers. Your discourses and analysis is one of my, as Dima knows and Dr. Burhan know, passions. I really enjoy discourse analysis. So thank you for sharing your research projects with us, and we look forward to you sharing more further research with us in the future.